Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Garden of Neuro Poetry Book Club gathering, the very first one of 2024. My name is Nancy Arvizu. I'm your new host this year, taking over from our Poet Laureate Emeritus, Lisa Tomei Zonneveld, who can't make it this morning, but she's got a lot of things still cooking in the garden. So very excited to be here. And look who's even joining us, Cheryl. Exciting. So what I'd like to take a moment real quick to do is introduce you to the garden. This is our welcoming slide that we present. You've probably all seen it before. We envision a world where all women are seen and heard. Our community practices deliberative conversations, sociocratic decision-making, and collective projects for the benefit of all engaged members. We share wisdom through book clubs, kitchen table talks, free and paid courses, and collaborative work. Our simple rules are respect all the spaces, be curious and ask questions, support women's agency, and be open to life's possibilities. I will hopefully get out of that.
Bluetooth connected.
Hey, is it okay if I
And
bring up
you
my
should, yeah, if we could go real
jacket?
quick, let's
Sure.
real quick go around and
Sure.
introduce ourselves, Nolcha, and then I'll end on you since you are our guest today, our
Okay.
speaker today, and we'll start the presentation. But let's start with Annette. Just take a few minutes and introduce yourself and where you are in the world.
Well, right now I'm visiting my family in Georgia, my daughter and her husband and the two granddaughters. And I'm from Michigan, so I'm going back to renovate my home just to prove for a nice remortgage. And my son is going to take over the renovation. He'll be the contractor.
Congratulations.
Contracting everything out, and I'm so happy about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Being
And
here.
I was looking for a Kindle book of Nolcha's. I couldn't find one. So I'll have to keep on buying my paperbacks.
Well, we will have to remedy that, Nolcha.
I think so.
And we will remedy that. Okay, good morning, Cheryl. Thank you so much for being here. Go ahead and introduce yourself for a moment. Oh, why can't I hear you? Why cannot I hear you? It says you're unmuted.
Yeah.
Turn up volume, maybe. Can you hear me?
Do you have a microphone that's off?
She can hear me. Try again. Mute. Unmute. Nope. Okay, keep searching. I'm going to come back to you in a minute. Madeline, so nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. She goes off camera. Madeline, you hit the off camera and not the mute button. Okay. Susan, how about you introduce yourself? We'll get to it.
Oh, Susan, I'm Susan Brearley, and I'm the founder of the Garden of Neuro. Yay. And yeah, look what we've created together.
Pretty fun.
I'm here in the Mid-Hudson Valley in Poughkeepsie, New York. I'm so happy to see you. I haven't seen you all since last year. Happy New Year. Happy to be here.
Happy New Year. Cheryl, can I hear you yet? No, why can't I hear you? Okay.
Yeah, something's up.
Go out and come back in and let's try it again. Try that. That might work. Madeline, take yourself off mute and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Madeline. I'm currently living in Independence, Missouri. We got a house here, so I plan to die here. But not right now. I want to live away. And I'm looking forward to this, to the meeting today.
Good. Me too. Nolcha has quite the presentation on order here today. Nolcha, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and we'll get this thing started and we'll wait for Cheryl to pop back in.
Okay. My name is Nolcha Fox. I am the current Poet Laureate. I live in Buffalo, Wyoming, where we are amazingly enough not having snow. This is the mildest winter in 20 years. We'll probably pay for it later, but that's okay. I'm good with mild.
Mild is better than, yeah, the alternative,
And what we
right?
had last year, yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. And so I'm Nancy Arvizu and I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. And it has been a wild, very mild New Year's for us. And I'm hoping we have a mild, actually, I'm hoping we have a wet spring. You know, all I pray for is rain out here. So, well, I hope Cheryl is able to get back in. I'm watching for her. In the meantime, Nolcha, would you like to take over and start sharing
Or,
Dancing with Dragons?
okay. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. Just like thumbs or whatever. Okay. So, why are we here today? What is this all about? I wanted to talk about who writes my poetry, what really happens when I write, where I get my inspiration, and examples of inspired poetry from these are two of my latest books. My Pelvis Wants to Be Elvis, published by cyberwit.net, and Cancer Isn't Just a Constellation by Garden of Neuro Publishing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Nancy. And I'm also some of my published poems. Okay, so who writes this stuff anyway? I've always thought that I was an imposter poet because I'm really not. I don't feel like I write. It's really someone writing through me. And I really think it's the ghosts of dead poets or the ghosts of people who wanted to be poets. However, and unfortunately for them, what they want to say is transformed by my experiences, my sense of humor, and my very anal sense of order. But the ghosts come back day after day, poem after poem. I just need to step out of the way and let them do it. So one day they'll wise up and they won't come back again. And when that happens, I won't be able to write anymore. And at this point, I'd like to ask people if they've ever had this feeling that they are not the ones doing the writing.
I absolutely feel like that.
Oh, good. We can hear Cheryl. Cheryl, introduce yourself real quick and tell us about that, what that feels like.
Hi guys, I'm Cheryl, and I'm a poet and an author, and I really love this group of women. So I kind of stopped when you sent me that message that you were meeting in the garden today. I dropped everything. It's like, so I was having some technical issues, but I went and pulled that man and made him um and fix these microphones. So I'm glad to be with you guys, but I know exactly what Nolcha is talking about. I think I told Lisa. I said, you know, God, I wake up with that. I feel like I'm just an imposter at this point. Like I'm reading Nolcha's writings or Zan's writings or whomever's, and I say to myself, I don't write like that. I don't. My voice isn't as strong. My imagery isn't as whatever. And so you absolutely feel like an imposter. But I also recognize that the gifts that I've been given are mine, and so other people might say, well, I don't write like her. So it kind of balances itself out. So I'm able to recognize that each voice brings something different, and that there is not less value in the voices. The more voices we have in a space, it enhances that space. So even though I may not say it as Nolcha or Zan would say it, it doesn't mean that my voice has less value, if that makes sense.
Yes. Thank you, Cheryl. Anyone else?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I remember being in a college course where they brought in a PhD psychologist, and it was when I was in my psychology program, and she was talking about imposter syndrome. And so of course everybody came because everybody wanted to know about imposter syndrome because everybody felt it. And she said, I feel it too. Even if you're at the very highest levels of achievement, you feel it. And it's one of those things that everybody feels. It's actually really, really common. So that was somehow reassuring to me. It enabled me to look at that feeling and say, oh, there it is. There it is. Hello. And that feeling of someone else speaking through you is really common too. Like I often feel that there's some spirit going through me and it isn't me. But or even that even comes up sometimes when I do public speaking, where I'll stand up and I'll do a whole presentation and then I'll get off the stage and not really know what I said, or feel like I don't really know what I said, and that there was a spirit working through me. So I and I've felt that way since my cancer in 1995. That's when that started happening. And I think the reason for that is in 1995, after the cancer, I kind of gave my life, back for a bigger purpose because that's how I felt. I said, wow, I just was given my life back as a gift. Now I'm here in service because my life was given back as a gift. I almost lost it. And so, yeah, so that thing about getting out of your way when you put your ego on the shelf and you say, that's what that is, right? You put that aside and allow that spirit to go through you. Yeah, it's quite an amazing feeling, but wonderful at the same time.
Thank you, Susan.
Well,
Anyone else? Or shall I continue?
I was just going to add kind of the same thing Susan said, but I think what happens when you open yourself up to it and you practice that, it happens easier. You get into the flow easier. So it's a very interesting conversation though. I love it.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Nancy. Okay, now we're going to get to the fun slide. Okay, so this is what really happens when I write. I know writers who need to have the absolutely perfect environment to write, whether it's music, whether it's lighting, whether it's, having toys around or objects that inspire them or whatever. I admire them. However, my mind and my life are not perfect. I write through barking dogs, and by the way, we may have some this morning. I apologize. And I write through my husband watching television without his hearing aids. Yeah, yay, Godzilla. That's one of the things he likes to watch. And I write through migraines. I don't have a set time that I write. I write anytime, day or night. I have no idea what I'm going to write when I start writing. No idea. I might have a word or a phrase, and that's all I have. So I call these my dragons. And I'd like to open the floor now to let people share their experiences of their dragons or their writing process.
All
I hope
right.
my dragons
No,
didn't scare your dragons. What?
Go ahead, Cheryl. Go ahead.
Cheryl, go.
no, I don't have like a defined process either. I've never had one, and that goes back to the imposter, because I feel like maybe I need to be more serious about it, and then maybe my writing would be a little bit different, or it would be more like, I don't know. It would just, maybe it would be better, but um it's weird because I feel like I need to, aside from some Miles Davis in the background or some BB King in the background, that's my mood. But I mean, I don't need BB King or Miles Davis in the background. It could be Stevie Wonder or YouTube in the background. It could be Bono. So it doesn't necessarily, you know, just depends basically how I'm feeling. When I'm joyful and my music is going, it kind of gets the creative juices flowing more. So I tend to like to have my Foreigner or Billy Joel or whoever it is that I'm listening to at that particular time to enhance my thought process. But I really don't actually have like this whole kind of like writing ritual, you know, at all. So maybe I was thinking maybe I kind of need to maybe come up with one. I'm not sure, but I just feel like maybe I need to do something, because sometimes I'm feeling more stuck than I've ever felt. But I think writing 2 books at one time, and then I just have like all the stuff going on. So I'm just kind of a mess. And I think that is what is coming through at this point, because I've just got so much stuff going on at one time.
I think we're all a hot mess when it comes to that. I think, Cheryl, you just like told everybody's life. That's our daily life. It's just one thing I will do, I will invite you to our Monday morning write-ins that we're doing. They're 2 hours. We get our butt in the chair and we write, and we even share what we write and get some feedback. So it's been a great experience. I will invite you to that. We're starting in the One Mind Book Club, Atomic Habits. And really what it comes down to is how you stack your habits, how you do your day. And because you think about it, you get up in the morning, you get up, you go to the bathroom, you have some water, you brush your teeth, you have breakfast. That's your habit. And you do these things in order. So if we stack our habits of, okay, now I'm going to sit and write, and then I'm going to take a 10-minute break, and then I'm going to write some more. And you just stack the habits. It's so much easier said than done, right? So much easier said than done. But as you were speaking, Cheryl, I wrote, consistency is queen. It has to be, we have to be consistent in our writing. And I think Nolcha is super consistent because she's probably plugged into what Susan defined as spirit. I can't remember who told us to it, but it's always there. Our creativity is always there. There's no such thing as writer's block. It's us to just go, I need to plug into that. And we need to practice that plugging in. So I wrote down, the more we do it, the more we become it. Do the work of a writer and be a writer. So that's what we need to do, is just sit. And that's Nolcha, that's what you're saying. You write. I write anytime, day or night. Do the work of a writer.
I didn't mean to imply that maybe I wasn't as consistent. To me, I'm just all over the place. And sometimes that chaos doesn't really lend to the best writing experience, because I do recognize that the chaos is just, I haven't been at peace. My mother-in-law just died. Before my mother-in-law, my dad died of stage 4 prostate cancer. Before my dad died, it's just, I've just been like caregiving for senior citizens. And it's just like over the last 5 years. So the fact that I've been able to produce 4 books within that time frame is a miracle in and of itself. And so I heard Nancy, you just say, and Susan refer to it as a spirit. I refer to it as God's voice within me. That's what I refer to it as, because I write this stuff and I say, there's no way that this little suburban Black girl, which is now a grown middle-aged woman, is able to write stuff like this. So I recognize that, that it does come from a different higher source, because I'm just not capable in and of myself to write some of the stuff that I'm writing. But I do think sometimes order is a good thing. And because I guess because it's been so much just not order at all. It's just been just a complete chaotic mess that I kind of long for where it's quiet and where I can have these writing rituals and I can be more structured. And then I can, but as I'm talking, I'm listening to you guys and I'm listening to myself. I'm saying, well, maybe uh there is kind of a, a testimony through all of this testing that I'm going through, all of these tests and all this chaos. So maybe the chaos is actually helping me in some way, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And
Totally.
I think that there are times when I feel like I cannot write because there's too much chaos and too much. This is like Guess the Dragons, right? But there's too much chaos. It's chaos overload, and there's a lot on my shoulders, um and a lot of demands on me, and it's very emotional. It's very tumultuous, and I cannot just sit down and write. And in those moments, I try to stay open to what is happening in that swirl of chaos, because I know that coming out of it, there will be some great writing later, right? But just not now. And I have to be okay with that. It's just not now. And sometimes it's like days go by, and a long period of time goes by, and I'm getting to that place where I want to beat myself up because I didn't sit down and I didn't write, and that's not a good thing. It's not productive. And we do that to ourselves. Especially women are really good at beating ourselves up about what we didn't do right and how we're not perfect and da 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 da.
Mhm.
It's just when we have that level of chaos going on, we have things that are taking priority, and we tend to go with the things that really, really are calling for us. And we know they need us. And so then we don't write, even though we are writers. And that, right, that feeds that whole imposter syndrome. Oh, I can't get to writing, so I must be. And that's not, it's the furthest thing from the truth. All those experiences, they feed our writing.
And that's another thing. Like I'm listening to all of you wonderful women speaking and the nuggets, like every time Nancy speaks, she'll say something that I can totally relate to. Nolcha, when she's saying, I write at nighttime or, in the morning or whatever, it is very random. It's very sporadic. So that hits a note with me. But I think the consistency is probably the best discipline for any writer to have because obviously and my sister is a blessing because she's my Maya Angelou. I mean, I really think she's that good. And she pulls me up in ways that she doesn't even understand. But if I'm having a difficult time, I'll stop. I'll kind of look at it. I think about it to myself. I'll read it to her. She's so in tune to just me as a human being. She's my person until she can finish it. She'll say, well, maybe this is the direction that you might want to consider taking that. So it's good. The sisterhood, especially the sisterhood that the garden provides for women, it is tremendous. And I think it's needed. And I think it really helps, just because, I've been on here for maybe 15 minutes and I've got like three things from each person, Nolcha, Nancy, and Susan that I'll use. I'll use that later on today. I'll use that later on tonight. I'll use that the next time that I'm writing. But I do consistency often it will pay off. And that's pretty much all I want to say.
Well, I want to thank all of you because when I write, I feel very alone. And it's really difficult to believe that anyone else is going through any of this. That's another dragon. I didn't write that down, darn it. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on. Okay, so I want to talk about what inspires me. I have written from prompts ever since I started writing poetry because I didn't trust that I had enough interesting things going on in my life that I could write what was going on. So I actually get prompts mailed to my inbox, like from poets and writers. I use random word generators. There are a million places to get prompts. It's amazing. I also find inspiration in poetry from other poets. There might be one word or one phrase that just captures my imagination. So I have all of this poetry emailed to me every day. You don't want to know how much time I spend just going through all of it. Sometimes objects will inspire me. Sometimes images, photos, artwork. Lately, it's been childhood memories, and I find that really interesting because when I first started writing, I could remember very, very little from my childhood. But the more that I write, the more I remember. And nature, time, and seasons is another one. Okay, so I wanted to share with you some of the poetry that has been inspired by prompts. And I don't know if you remember this one, Susan. I think it was September when we were talking about how every day had a different holiday. And there was you had a challenge for people to, write something for each holiday for every day. And I was, of course, very lazy. So I put a bunch of them together in one poem. So this is called Drunk, and it's really weird, but it was fun. Be the ants upon the log, barely sober. Nothing wrong with hot mulled cider. Square dance on a piano, played by tigers chasing chickens. Dip pirate hats in queso, snarling arg. Ask us any question, we act stupid. We are punch-drunk lumberjacks, concealing love notes pressed in comics. It's September, eat a hoagie. Toss the clock out. No one cares if we are late. We are okay. We lick iguanas. Never mind. That's pretty awful. Ride an ampersand and don't forget dessert. Buy 2 for 1. And that is in my book, My Pelvis Wants to Be Elvis. And please don't ask me to remember what all the holidays were.
I think the one dip pirate cats and hey so snarling, that must be Cinco de Mayo.
No, it was all in September.
Oh, they were all September holidays.
They were all
Okay.
September. Yeah, there was, I think, National Pirates Day.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. All right.
I think there was a National Iguana Day too.
That's crazy. Okay, go on.
Okay. Okay, here's another one inspired by prompts, and it's called Terminal. And in this case, the prompt was actually something a nurse said to my brother when my mother was in the hospital with stage 4 cancer. And she said, your mother isn't dying, she's just terminal. Okay, let me just move this over a bit because it's in the way of what I want to read. Okay, there we go. Okay. My mother's just a terminal. I passed through her and traveled to a separate life. My mother's in a terminal. She's purchased her last ticket. My mother's packing bags and leaving me. She's leaving me mementos, so I know she isn't gone for good. My mother's leaving trails of saving stamps to follow through the terminal in hopes I'll hug her, love her, keep her feet from boarding. I know she'll disappear. The destination is a place that swallows all we are. I fear this destination, and I want a refund on my ticket. Please. This poem was included in Cancer Isn't Just a Constellation. Okay, now this poem, it was inspired by the editor of Sonnets to Sing, who was commenting on another poem and said something about firefly lightning. So I thought, oh, that's a poem. That's definitely a poem. So I wrote this sonnet for her. Once upon a childhood, with open jars, we ran to catch bright breaths of shooting stars and firefly lightning, zig and zag of sparks in air, our oohs and ahs. We watched the sky pinwheel round, moon cradle smile, exhausted arms and lids on tight. We laughed goodnight. Even now, my jar is full of midsummer evening magic, and that is published on Sonnets to Sing. All right, now I have some examples of poetry that's inspired from poetry by other poets. This one is actually, the first and last lines are from Leonard Cohen's Anthem, and I consider Leonard Cohen to be a poet, even though he's a songwriter. It's called Don't Dwell. Bought and sold and bought again, we catch and cage our flighty souls, then barter them for useless things. They long to soar where we can't see, but fade in gold captivity. Now we are void of currency. Don't dwell on what has passed away. And I published that on Medium. All right, then I wrote a poem that was actually inspired by Pablo Neruda's Ode to Socks. And Susan, that was published in Medium. Neruda can keep his socks. I wouldn't swap them for my thick gray robe. I'm in a womb, wrapped in cocoon. I walk outdoors and grin at stars before life stirs, and no one knows. I feel no chill. The morning's grand. I just can't stand to take it off, then shower and dress, but daylight calls. Okay, now I have some poems that are inspired by objects, and this is probably a rather unusual object. And the poem is called Gently Used. It's in my book, My Pelvis Wants to Be Elvis. I dropped my womb off at Goodwill, but they refused to take it. Although it was gently used, they said it was an oddity that nobody would buy. I told them it had served me well and could be used by others. It could be a counterbox to store some day-old bread, or gifted as a goblet, or hold the ashes of somebody's dear old dead friend, Jed. They nodded, said it could indeed serve many other uses. They gave me a donation slip and gently used a broom to push me out the door before I gave them something else I'd used they'd never seen before. This poem is in Cancer Isn't Just a Constellation, and I wrote it while between the time my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and she died. I wear your heart around my neck. It matters not if gold or bronze, if pretty pennies bought it. It matters not it was engraved with words too small and hard to read. It matters that you thought of me and asked, I think of you.
The poems that you wrote about your mom, Nolcha, are they're making me very emotional because I can relate to them.
Yeah. Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, I wrote this recently and it was published in Scuzz Bucket, which is where I tend to toss my really weird things. Okay. What happened to Grandma? The filigree hands of Grandma's watch stopped decades ago when she died. I hang from the minute hand pointing to 9. I'm 9 years old, kicking my shoes off, running barefoot to her house. I run upstairs to the attic. Breathe in the smell of wood and dust and spiders, the smell of hidden treasures. It's 9 o'clock, and hazy sun pours through the attic window. There are 9 boxes. I hear a watch. Tick, tick, tick. I don't have much time to find time. Time in a box? Watch in a box. Which box? I have to save time, save grandma from time. I toss off the lids, crochet collars, buttons, lace handkerchiefs, green jello. Time hangs from the minute hand. Time drops to the floor, runs to grandma, and pulls her toward the future. I trip over boxes. The attic door is locked. I'm trapped. I can't stop time. Time is running out, barefoot, eating jello. I look out the attic window. Time waves goodbye. Grandma's watch stops ticking. Grandma is gone.
I like that one.
Thank you. Okay. So, poems inspired by images. This is actually one of my favorite pictures. I don't know how well you can see it. It's 2 bicycles in a tree. I have no idea how they got there. So, of course, I had to write a poem about it. And I called it Blame the Cat. Who else would teach our bicycles to roll up that big tree and hang their wheels below the leaves for everyone to see? Who else could teach the wintering deer to clamber up the roof for selfie opportunities to send to friends as proof? We have to blame the cat because he doesn't give a crap and flicks his tail erratically while settling in to nap. And that's included in My Pelvis Wants to Be Elvis. So just like my writing style is all over the place, I'm afraid my poems are all over the place too. Okay, so this one, I think this was from Living Poetry. So I wrote a poem entitled But Ugly Booties. I try to try these booties on. They criss and cross too many ways. I cannot tell which side is up. They're on a different side from me. The colors are a horror, more Halloween or Hitchcock. I'd rather freeze my tootsies off than wear these ugly things. They're what my mother lent to me to celebrate this day. I hope no one will see them underneath my wedding dress. And that was published in the Garden of Nero on Medium.
Okay, I didn't see that coming. I wasn't reading ahead.
You know, something borrowed, something blue. Yeah. Whoops, wrong. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. So poems inspired by childhood memories. I was very young when Elvis went on the Ed Sullivan Show, but I still remember it. My pelvis wants to be Elvis on the Ed Sullivan Show. I want to be that cutie who shakes her booty while Elvis bumps and grinds. Who minds? Gyrating hips and snarling lips. The truth be said, my darling Ed, the rest of me wants to be in bed. And that was in my book, My Pelvis Wants to Be Elvis. Okay, this one is included in Cancer Isn't Just a Constellation. And I wrote this when my mother was dying. My eyes. I don't see you as you are, frail, anguished, dying. I see you lost in Schubert as your fingers dance on piano keys. I see your face so mortified at my frayed shorts from sliding on wet concrete. I see you singing in the car as we drove cross country. I see you kissing me goodnight when sunset filled my room with pink. I don't see you as you are. I will always see you through the eyes of childhood.
That is just beautiful, Nolcha. Thank you for sharing these.
Oh, thank you very much. Oops, and I'm pressing the wrong key. My bad. Okay. So this one is published in Sonnets to Sing and is called Pretenders. Let's pretend happiness in matching turquoise and white mother-daughter dresses, while he snarled, "Smile, damn it," behind the camera. Let's pretend a perfect family, while she laid on the couch with migraines, he growled into his martinis, and I gasped for air under a thick brick of icy tension that squished us into perfect paper cutout dolls. Let's pretend closeness in separate rooms and strained and shallow conversations at dinner. Let's pretend everything I did was wrong, that your broken marriage was all my fault. Let's pretend I could fix it. Okay, so poems inspired by nature, time and seasons. This one is in my Pelvis Wants to Be Elvis. It's called Lean. Memories are the leaves of your messy life, pierced by aphids and sunlight, parasailing with the wind, landing in gutters that dim with age, crinkling underfoot, sticking to your shoes, crushed into different stories. Lean against the tree, shake it. This one is also included in Cancer Isn't Just a Constellation. I'm a fool to watch the leaves, dance with the wind, to blush, to die and fall. I'm a fool to pull on boots and dance in pouring rain. I'm a fool to scribble words at odd hours of the day, when others watch the soaps or meet for cribbage or for tea. I'm a fool to ask the why to pain that can't be answered. I'm a fool who leaves behind the beauty of destruction. I wrote this one quite recently. It's published in Sonnets to Sing. If you can stand the cold, look up. December nights, rain falling stars, wind throws silver glitter snow. We spin below the earth a whirligig that tilts and sends us off to who knows where. As we twirl, the constellations show off jewelry we can't grab. We stand and stare, eyes wide, to bottle beauty beyond reach within our hearts, to freeze this blink of time till next December rolls around. Oh, that's it. That was easy. Okay, any comments, any questions?
So many nuggets here. So many things I've taken notes on. You're right. There's so much inspiration. All it takes is for us to look and then sit and write it down. Truly, that's kind of how I feel about it. The more I write, the more I remember. That's a good one because that's true. The more we write it down, it brings up more and opens up more little, I don't know, closets in our mind, I guess. Very interesting. Very interesting. Anybody else like to add to that?
I'm just, every poem that was read this morning was just, it was beautiful. Imagery, strong. They were strong poems. I mean, at least 4 of them brought me to tears. I thought I was going to have to turn the camera around and leave because I'm trying to contain myself. I mean, if you don't feel something, you just don't have a pulse. I haven't heard anything this amazing in a while. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you for being here. And yeah, Nolcha, you've been through a lot, and to write through it, and then we published it as quickly as we could, on me, and then to be here sharing it. It's a very big testament to your relationship with your mother.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all those.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're a wonderful wordsmith, Nolcha. You have an incredible range, from humor to heartfelt messages. Your poetry really is quite remarkable, and I hope you keep writing.
Thank you. As long as they'll let me.
I like your imagery, how it moves me to look at some of your life or some of other people's lives a certain way, and then it'll turn around and give me a new horizon to look at everything.
Mhm.
Thank you. So I have a question for all of you.
Okay.
And Cheryl, this might apply a lot to you, and that's, have you found that your writing has changed when big things happen in your life?
Yes.
Absolutely. Um, I'm in such a profoundly sad space because of all the death in the consecutive years of it. So I'm trying to not write now because it's all so sad. And quite honestly, I don't want to become that. Um, and so I'm loving being in this space because even though a lot of poems are sad, there are some joyful ones that aren't, and they're happy, and it's good for me to hear those, because that's where I live mostly when I'm not just grieving loss of life, you know. So you have a great range, and that's already been stated by Susan. But I think you probably know that because as a writer, we have to know our strengths, and humor is good, and it's great if you can use humor in your writing. That's a plus plus.
Anybody else? So a couple years ago, I went through some really big grief moments, and I didn't write for a year. I wouldn't, I drew a lot, I colored a lot of, chaotic drawing, a lot of master classes. And it took a year before I could write. And it took another big traumatic event to make me write. And then I wrote something spectacular and didn't share it. I was supposed to speak at someone's funeral and I didn't. And it's still a big shameful moment for me of I spent that year not writing, then I wrote something and I didn't share it when I was supposed to. And it's taken me a long time and I'm still trying to get over that. It's still a thing with me. But I was thinking about you, Cheryl, and what you've been through too. I get it. And you're right, it is a miracle that you've been able to write and put stuff down. Because in my grief, I wasn't able to. I wasn't able to. So it takes a while, but I think the most important thing I learned is how important our words are in these moments. So even if it takes a while to get them down, it's important to get them down. And then it's also important to share them. And I think that's what inspires me the most about you, Nolcha, is how much you just turn it out and publish, and you're not afraid to click publish. I write to your prompts and then I don't publish them because I'm afraid. I keep them for myself. So I'm inspired by you. This whole conversation is really kind of giving me I want to get consistent this year. I
I
want to
I
get consistent.
I said in like 2019 when we released my sister and I when we released our first book of poems, I said that because I recognize the tremendous gift that writing and words and books and poems and stories, and when you write them and then you release them, it's amazing how the healing just immediately releases itself into the universe.
Mhm.
For the writer, for the person that reads them, it's just tremendous healing. And that's the gift that all words and all writing is. And to have a gift and to not release it, I think is really, it's quite shameful.
Mhm.
And so I get it. I get why you feel like that was probably one of your weaker moments. But it's never too late. You can release that. Can still release that. And I think I would encourage you to do that.
Mm. Thank you. Anybody else? I think Nolcha, the floor is yours still.
I'm done. Weird, right?
Oh, I think it was great. What a great morning. It's always good. These conversations are always so inspiring and uplifting and kind of give us a different perspective of where our head's at. So I thank you for this morning. And I thank all of you ladies for joining us here this morning.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Yes. And Cheryl is on my list of next month. So I know we have some conversations to have. So I'm so glad you're here this morning. Because I wrote down a lot of nuggets for us and to converse over. But thank you all for joining us here this morning. I hope you got just as much out of it as I did. I mean, this has been very good, a very good way to start my day. And I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you, Nolcha, for the wonderful presentation, for being our poet laureate, for being our daily inspiration of poems in the garden. We're putting together the anthology now of the last 3 months of collecting poetry in the garden. So I'm excited to get working on that project. And I just want to say thank you all for being here today. And I will
Thank you.
stop the recording now.